Late nights, we turn small grooves into launchpad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launchpad flights. Grew up on base where the bike ties hum. Crestview dunk ball, rubber band wars young. Trees we climbed stood tall like the dreams we slung. Sun on our backs, whole world on our tongues. Then boom, light flip, tight walls, no space. 5 deep in one room, but we kept our pace. Me and Rob laughed loud just to soften the weight. Didn't know what we lacked, cause the love was great. Mama spoke life like a prophet on fire. Pop said greatest, made the standard high. Didn't see it then through the thin wall grind, but the words took root in the back of our mind. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights.
The legend, the legend, the legend, the legend is here, and I have been waiting. What does Big Daddy Kane, Lenny Kravitz, Madonna, Bilal, Anderson, Paak, the Roots all have in common, YahZarah?
I guess they got me in excellence.
Well, my mom told me one time, I remember meeting someone, I think I met him in the airport, and I took a picture, and I was so excited. My mom, she grew up in a very small town in Utah, Tooele, Utah, represent. There's like 4 people, so if they're listening, I would probably have the whole city on the podcast right now. But I called her and I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, Mom. You'll never believe. And she's like, what won't I believe? And I said, I met this person. I got to take a picture with them. And it was a big hero for me. And she didn't even bat an eye. She didn't even stop for a second. She just said, no, son, they got a chance to meet you. And that's what I've been thinking about as you and I've been waiting on this episode. You realize this. Like the last time, it was so funny because I got the call from you. We were scheduled to have the podcast, and you were like, oh, well, I had something come up. And most people are like, I needed to run to the store. I needed to do whatever. And you were like, I just had to hop on a plane and go, spend some time with Big Daddy Kane. And I was like, that's the best dismount that I've ever had in my life. But as I was listening to your music and as I read the accolades, for me, it's not about like, oh, wow, you sang with Erykah Badu, toured with Lenny Kravitz, worked with Madonna and all these people. I think that they had the opportunity to work with you.
I appreciate that greatly. I think one of the things that I've always been very blessed with is that I started in the church, and that's where I discovered my gift and my talent. So I always understood that every person I'm working with, that I'm of service to, is of service to you. So I've never been able to be starstruck in that way. I met Madonna. I was like, I'm just so glad we're here together. Show me how I can serve. And she looked at me like I was crazy because I think most people are, more starstruck. But again, because I recognize my calling, I think of all of the people whom I've worked with is like, for lack of a better word, my twin flames. I've loved each and every one a different way, and I've learned a different thing from each and every human I've had the opportunity to touch and work with. So that means a whole lot to me. Like they had an opportunity to work with me. It's only recently that I've been able to cultivate the type of self confidence where I can say that without feeling like there's something wrong. So I thank you. You're keeping me accountable.
Why do you think that is as far as the self-confidence? Because most people would look at, number one, you're absolutely beautiful. In the event that they get a chance to listen to your music, which everyone should, you're a neo-soul legend. Most of us think like you're just walking on streets of gold all the time. You just write a song magically. It comes out. Everyone listens to it. You go on tour. You just live this life. Is that the way that a legend's life is?
Well, I'm an independent artist, so there's no label, there's no manager. I have an assistant. I'm grateful for Nikki. Shout out to Nikki Kent, my publicist, who is a good friend of mine, who believes in my work and pushes me forward, Christy. Um, I think that when I talk about self confidence, because my first start in music was in a space where people were serving. I've always just felt really lucky to be part of the business. Now, with me saying that doesn't mean I don't know exactly what I am. what type of creature I am. I know I'm a unicorn. And I'm grateful because it took me time to recognize that it's okay to admit one's amazingness and also be able to be graceful in the same space.
Mm.
If that makes sense. There's some people who are connected to their persona so deeply and so tightly that they don't know how to treat anybody. And I've worked my entire career to make sure, because of my gifts are so substantial, 14 years of dance, two dance companies, considered for a Grammy in six categories, writing and working and arranging with all these people in one way or the other. It's real easy to forget that you're a vessel. And I'm just super grateful as a kid who was bullied, as a child who was raised in a city with a color caste system that told me that simply because of my color, I wasn't going to make it. And I heard that from people who were my own people. To be able to rise above that into the space that I'm in now, I do it a certain way because I want people to see what happens when somebody who has experienced a great deal of pain gets an opportunity to walk in purpose, but doesn't get changed for the worse.
Mm.
It
Tell me
gets
more
changed
about
for the better.
Tell me more about the color cast part, because I just had Josie Beal on. She's the um, goalie for USC, and she originally was from Rwanda. She was adopted by a family and then grew up in Carlsbad. And so in Carlsbad, there's not many people that look like her. And I ended up meeting her when she was probably 7 years old. She focused in on soccer, and now got a full ride to USC. But she alerted me to some of this color cast side to in Carlsbad. But tell me more about that experience with you.
I think it's different for different people in different places. I come from what they call Chocolate City, and it had a very interesting has a very interesting history where some of the most incredible vocalists and musicians the world has ever known have come out of Washington D.C. quietly. It's one of the few places where you could grow up and turn on the television for public television and see black folks singing classical and jazz, and it's not unheard of to see somebody sing a black girl singing Puccini, and that shaped the singer you see, but the social backdrop, unfortunately, it was very, very tied to the vestiges of slavery. And that, just like in Africa, you have very big men and you have small men, right? And in DC, some of the children of slaveholders came here and they did very big things, and they were taught and conditioned, unfortunately, not to love the Rosetta Stone of their source, which is their brownness, their blackness, and to discriminate against that, which is still one of the vestiges of, the imperialism created by whites, the lie of white supremacy. So I sit here as a miracle because I was constantly ridiculed or told that I needed to stop acting like I was light skinned. And that was really weird. I was targeted by children and adults who thought that I thought too much of myself. And it wasn't until, I kind of created an imposter around that who reminded me that I was descended from kings and queens, and that my brothers and sisters who would try to put that on me were just what's the word? They were conditioned by something that told them that in order to keep favor, they had to be white adjacent. They had to uh, hate who they were and shame others who reminded them of it. Howard University would kick students out if they sung gospel music. What happened was, we were trying to outrun the fact that we could run and play the fiddle and do all these amazing magical things that came from our blackness, while at the same time standing up for it, which I'm sure is an incredible, like, just cycle of things that can get to the mind. And it did for me, but only a little, because when I opened my mouth, I was undeniable. When I spoke to others, I was undeniable. I lived in Germany for 4 years. I had a chance to experience music of all types. My father was a journalist and one of the main um, programmers for what they called AFN in the army. And so for 4 years, I lived in Bremerhaven, Germany, which was considered West Germany at the time. And I listened to all types of music and I got to know all types of kids. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, so the world I'm from is saying one thing, but here they love me. And I'm going to stick with that energy everywhere I go for the rest of my life. And I did. So even when someone was telling me that I couldn't achieve because of my color, or saying, hey, we're looking for four cute light skinned girls who can sing like you, um, I always just knew I was just in the wrong place and that the right venue was going to find me. And I'm grateful for that.
When you were in, when you started in the church and you're singing gospel and you've got that part in the serving part, when did it start to, when did you start to realize that was going to be a foundation for the rest? Because some people almost feel as if I start in the church, I'm serving, I can't go outside of that. So I have to stay in that. It's almost like the rock and roll side or the soul side or the, jazz or anything like that. It's almost in battle with it. And
Mhm.
that people feel that you have to stay in a lane. When did you start to break that?
I think for me, going to Duke Ellington School of Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., was the catalyst for me discovering that there were lots of different ways to find God and to interpret Him to the world. Um, because I'd have to sing these amazing classical songs and interpret jazz pieces. And one of the things that they made us do right before a jury was we would have to do these things called translations. And I would discover God in the writings of all types of people. And so I started to think they're kind of a bunch of holes in this cheese that tell me that there ain't nobody's way right but us. And also there's a really great book written by Jeremiah Wright, who was formerly Barack Obama's minister at a church called Trinity in Chicago. And he writes this really great book called Ain't Nobody Right But Us. And that was also a turning point for me, in my college years, reading that book and discovering that life is a mountaintop and that God speaks to people through Allah. God speaks to people through Buddhism. God speaks to people through Hindu. I think the righteous path is finding God where God speaks to you. And I think also reading Marvin Gaye's Divided Soul, which speaks so intimately and eloquently about how one balances their ability to serve God in the ways in the places that they've been told God exists, and also serve the world from the edifice of the stage and theater. Um, truthfully, when I saw how my voice was being used to change a heart, it was easy for me to recognize that where I was and everywhere I am is God.
How do you continue to, you alluded to it earlier and I want to dig into that, where you talked about the fact of that you're serving people. This is a gift that you have that you're pouring out onto the world. But a lot of times artists in our whether it be in any type of media or any type of discipline, they turn that focus back on themselves and lock in and think that it becomes about them. But from the first time that you and I talked, like, number one, just your cadence, I want you to understand, YahZarah, your cadence is so peaceful. Like, every phone call that I've had with you, I almost feel like I need to calm down, chill out for a second, because there's peace in it. But what's the guardrails for you? Are there things that as you go that you start to see, I'm starting to get off track, or I'm starting to get my focus is starting to shift a little bit, I need to come back? Are there things that you have put in place that help that?
My spiritual relationship with the divine really is a guidepost for me. Um, because the music industry is built off of personas and personalities and how well it's looking at the time. People are excited about you by virtue of who else is excited about you, and you can get really stuck there
Mm.
when the phone gets quiet or when people stop speaking about you. And if you don't have an anchor, um, it can be hard. And for me, I'd be a liar to say that I didn't sing because I felt invisible, where I lived, because of my color cast, because of being bullied, because of being articulate and smart and all these things. And when I would sing, people would see me. So there was a time in my life where all of a sudden the phone was really quiet, where people weren't talking, where the label I was with had, done some crazy stuff with the money, and all of a sudden I wasn't singing and I wanted to die. I'd be a liar to say that I felt great about being invisible and that I had placed all of my emotional visibility on this gift that's inside my body that people could love on one moment or forget the next. And so it became my relationship with myself. And I practice Yoruba as a religious science as well as Christianity. And one of the most important things for you in Yoruba is your Ori. Above all else, before the Orisha, before anything else, is this. And how many people say you're living in your head? So if I can keep this intact, if I can remember who I am and how God sees me in relation to myself, that I have people who love me when I'm just simply Dana, the name my mom put on my birth certificate, who love me when I have money in the bank, whether my videos are on, social networking websites or whether I have a show next week. They love me. I built my world around them. I built my world around myself, my work, and my walk with myself. Because there are a lot of people in various religious entities and sets who are still very lost when it comes to the idea that God still placed you here for your own personal experience. And once I realized that the music is simply part of what God is teaching me to be here on earth, then I stopped feeling like I needed the adulation so much. And I tuned into what my gift could do when I wasn't thinking so much about it simply being for me.
Amazing. Like, again, very wise words. Like, and a lot of life obviously has gone into the type of wisdom and the type of peace that you have. Take me back to the young. Whether was it, when did YahZarah step in, and when did Dana kind of get not pushed out, but when did you start going by YahZarah?
Uh, it's a funny story because when I started singing background for Erykah,
Uh-huh.
when I walked in the room, I first off, I didn't have any money to get to Dallas, and she wanted somebody from Dallas. My friend Eugene Young called me on the phone and said, "Hey, I already called Cy Smith, and she's going to take this gig if you don't take it." And I was in my, and I said, "Pardon me, everybody. Shit, this is my gig. This is my gig." And I was in my freshman year of college, and I was really kind of searching to find myself. I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD, and I'm slightly autistic. I did not know those things. Right, us neural spicy folk. I
I
didn't know that that was the reason I had issues with focusing with anything that wasn't music, and why I could make Dean's List but still fail a test, or do well on a test and still fail a class. Like, I really was suffering and figuring out what, like, I know I'm genius, but this is not good. Something in the water does not compute, right? And I need to find something else to bring me some joy and figure this out. Luckily, my school, North Carolina Central University, shouts out to them. They saw what I was dealing with. They saw my genius. I ended up being an honors student and making Dean's List for the next 2 years. And that's because God is God, and that's because I remembered who I was with the assistance of nurture. And I say that that's really important for human beings. We all need nurture. But what ended up happening was I ended up having to clean out all the accounts. My mom had jars, any family that's, modestly, you save, you got these jars that grandma been saving forever. And there was value jet flights at these times, and students got reduced fare on a value jet flight. And so my mom cleaned out her bank account. She's an educator, a teacher. The family basically banded together to get me one flight to Dallas. I had no money to go home. This time I'm walking in faith, like really understanding the power of manifestation. Also, back then there wasn't anything I didn't believe I couldn't do. Young youth, they say youth is wasted on the young. I actually think we could bottle some youthful exuberance and even a little bit of their, anarchy, and drink a little every once in a while to remind us of the days when we used to believe we could do everything. Because that's what they got. It's not arrogance. It's actually still that childhood, I can do anything energy that we then steal from one another out of jealousy that somebody else still has that in them. But that's a story for another day. Um, so needless to say, I get to Dallas. Amir Questlove is on drums for this gig. Okay. This is like I'm losing my mind. And because I'm a good church girl, I still don't know who the roots are. So I'm just sitting next to another dude with a big afro who needs his hair cornrowed, you know? So I come, I do the audition. Everybody has these incredible names. She asked me, hey, is there any name that your family calls you that we can call you? Besides Dana, you got a name we can call you? And I was like, well, my family calls me. And I yelled it out without thinking, Pop. So my family called me Pop because I was a forceps baby. When I was pulled out of my mother, a pop sound was heard around the room of me being pulled out with forceps. My family then called me Tootie Pop for the rest of my life until I was an adult. And so I yelled out, you could call me Pop. The biggest mistake I ever made in my life. For the next 4 years, YahZarah, the woman who would be YahZarah was called Pop. And they would use it all types of things. Pop got a pop booty. Pop got a pop boobs. Pop, 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 pop. Just every day, all day. And I wanted to be respected as an adult, not just little sis. And then when we did Mama's Gun, you had Ndombi Gilbert, who I think of as a mentor and one of the most incredible voices of our time. And you had China Black, who I think of as just a contemporary and vocal backing and what she did to just really, really do incredible things as a support singer behind some of the most incredible singers of our time, from Wyclef Jean to David Hollister to Badu to Jill. She has really made her mark in that way. And then there was like Pop, China Black, and Dobby, Pop. Pop, tell him why. And I'd be like, I can't do this. And so my father, who was an incredible human being who saved an entire village from cholera in Ghana, West Africa, was an Nkrumah fellow study, who was a king of the Akan tribe, who went into politics to rid Ghana of dictatorship, and who started the Democratic Party, is my daddy, who's no longer with us. And I met him when I was 14 years old, and he named me after his mother, whom I favor very greatly, Manana Ya Jonkoma Odorominsa. And so I was sitting at my computer one day and I just chopped off all my hair because I was tired of a great many things that needed to be released from my life. And one of those things was I wanted to be seen as the woman who I felt like I was at the time internally. And a friend of mine had this screensaver that said, Bury the bitch and let it die, which eventually ended up being a song I wrote and put on a record in 2003 about living in your past and releasing that, let it die.
Mm.
But when I saw the screensaver, I was like, let me bury Dana because she's not here. And she needs a name that powers respect when people hear it and allows them to treat her exactly as who she is. Because I was growing into that. I was performing, I had started my own open mic. Dana was doing her thing, but there was a person inside of me that wanted to come forth that had to be birthed through a name. And so I picked my name. And I picked my grandmother Nana Ya, and the Arabic flip of my grandmother Sarah's name. And my grandmother Sarah was a child prodigy pianist who gave up her career to have my mom at the age of 19. And so I decided, as hero worship or as a form of remembrance of their sacrifices as women, for me to be who I am, for me to be born, to enact their name, YahZarah, which means Queen Mother is the brightest. And so that makes me remember when I forget, when I seek to shrink to make others happy. Because, it's only been recently where I've been able to say, girl, you'd be further along if you believed in yourself more when the spotlight was on you to do so. I picked YahZarah to help me enact that. It still took years for me to live in it, but YahZarah reminds me every time I forget who the heck I am, what I was birthed for, and what I'm birthed to do.
Mm.
So that's how I became YahZarah. And my grandmother in Ghana helped raise 29 children, 26 of which were girls. My father was the only surviving male heir who changed the world through his work. And I wanted to bridge my commitment to changing the world through my work and through these women and be something bigger. So that's how YahZarah was born.
Tell me more about grandma.
Oh, my Nana,
Mm-hmm.
my grandma Sarah was everything to me. She gave up um, She probably would have been a great philosopher or a professor at a black college someplace teaching piano. But she didn't live in a world that would allow her to have a child and do those things. She ended up sending my grandfather to Carnegie Mellon to finish his degree. And then he left her and my grandmother high and dry. Her and my mom high and dry.
Wow.
Um, but you know that musical DNA is in me because of my grandfather and my grandmother. And my grandmother never stopped pushing me forward musically. When I went to the Cathedral of Notre Dame to sing in Paris when I was 16, she's the one that paid for it. When I wanted to play piano when I was 7, she's the one that had somebody secretly come to the door and say, Beethoven is here, and hand me a piano on Christmas Day. You know, my mom has an incredible voice. I am the first woman in 7 generations to live out the true meaning of my own personal dreams instead of build them around someone else. And even still with that knowledge, I have done that sometimes. But I've always come back to my Ori,
Mm.
me. And I'm grateful for them because they kept reminding me that this is about you coming into yourself and doing what we did not do. I do it for my mom, who was a child educator, but also has one of the most incredible voices I've ever known or heard. Who would remind me every Sunday, yeah, those people are clapping for you, but they're clapping for the God that is in you. Don't ever forget that. Please don't forget that. And I've worked in lots of spaces with people who are highly accomplished people, and some of them are very unhappy because for years no one has ever told them no, and also no one has ever reminded them that they do it to serve. You know, I always continue to just thank God every day that this thing that has been implanted in me has taken me to see the world. It has lifted me when I felt low. It has pulled me out of wants to take my own life. When I sing and I see how it heals the people in front of me, reminds me that I am here. It reminds me that I matter. It reminds me that there is purpose in my being and even purpose in the pain that I've experienced up to this point that brought me here to serve you.
Take me back to the one-way flight to Dallas. You show up,
Hmm.
like you said, Questlove is there, but it's not like you're aware of the impact that he's going to have as far as musically, right?
Yeah.
Um, Erykah Badu, I would say the godmother of neo soul, like one of my favorites
Mhm.
of all time. Um, you're in that place. Do you just go when I got a chance to sit down with Franklin, our friend Franklin Vanderbilt? I asked him. I said, "Were you nervous?" Because his first show with Lenny was he it was down in Brazil, and he said it was performing to almost 1 million. And I said, "Were you nervous?" He said, "No, I didn't have time to be. I just went." When you walked in, and you're in the, I mean, you're young. You walk in. Was there nerves?
Oh, definitely. And also because, Badu for me was the catalyst for my courage. I had to sue my school or threaten to sue my school back in 1997 because I decided to wear my hair natural. And because I was having lots of damage and breakage from doing all the things that we do to straighten and do the stuff. And my mother was like, You can't keep doing this. One, we've never been ashamed of our hair. So she took me to this woman who did these very tiny, intricate individual braids on my hair. And the director of that choir said, Well, if this was an African choir, then you could wear your hair natural, but that's not who we are. And this is a black director in a black school. And I was struggling for identity. And I ended up having to leave that choir and leave, almost leave the school. And it was a real catalyst for me. And I remember being in my mom's car. I just started driving, and one day I heard on and on, do, 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 do. And I heard this voice. And the things she was talking about were the things I had been raised knowing. With my father, who was a member of the Black Liberation Army and a Shango priest and a Muslim, and all these searching things that I had an opportunity to be identified with as a child. And I heard her singing about them in these songs, and I was like, oh, this sounds like home to me. And then when I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like my sister here. This is my twin flame right here. You know, and when I would work for her, there would be times where we would show up sometimes wearing the same thing, or I'd gone to Walmart and bought this cool duffel bag. I mean, not Walmart, Target, and bought this cool duffel bag one day, and she walks into rehearsal with the same thing. Every moment with her was confirmation of myself. She being a performing arts kid, and I going to Duke Ellington, and her being in Ellie, and me being in dance companies, and thinking that I was going to be the next Black Carmen or the next Carmen de Lavalade, not the next YahZarah. um, Being with her gave me validation that I existed somewhere, and that version of myself in its grown iteration was going to be okay. Because I could see her and see this grown woman who was all the things I was aspiring to be, who was winning at being herself. And then I ended up in a group with Eugene Young, who was going to Howard at the time. And when he graduated, he went back to Dallas. He went to high school with Badu and sung with her. And the rest of what happened after that was history. Just being at the right place, being willing to serve got me in a group with Eugene. Him remembering my excellence and my commitment to my art had him call me, along with God knows the illustrious Sasha Smith, who I think of as a sister and a friend. And now, back then was just a hero. um my life has been very, very blessed, and that time with Badu was a great classroom that I learned a lot in. But what wasn't taught, I learned simply by watching somebody else be fearless while also being afraid but still jumping. And that was what I got from being with Badu, and I'm forever grateful for that.
You know who's watching live right now? Franklin Vanderbilt.
Hey babes.
We love you, Franklin. And so tell me about this, because relationships, and this was what Franklin and I talked about on the podcast when he was on. It was wild because he was actually performing at the Mandalay Bay when I worked at the Mandalay Bay, and I used to sit in a lounge, and I didn't know it was Franklin, but I used to sit and watch him at the Mandalay Bay after work. Little did I know, years later, we would become friends. How important is it for you to make sure that the people that you meet, this is what my pops always said. He said, you never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going. You never know where you'll meet up with them again. So make a friend out of everyone. How important has
Yes.
that been for you within your life, going from, the likes when we first started off? I said, what does Erykah Badu have in common with Lenny, have in common with Madonna, have in common with Anderson Paak, have in common with The Roots, have in common with Anthony Hamilton? I think one of the least appreciated in the neo soul movement, by the way. What do all of them have in common? They have you in common, but how important are the relationships that you build, and to be able to make sure that they're solid and that they have a foundation, because you never know where someone's going to show up again.
I guess I've been very lucky that everywhere I've been little sis. And, I don't know if it's my height. Um, but maybe it's also been that either I am either A, being a little sis, or I am being a midwife and a mother. And all the spaces that I'm in, I think of myself as a midwife. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not a queen, and quite literally by blood I am, which is why my carriage is specific. But I've just always been really blessed to be in company with great teachers, and to be able to also see myself as a teacher so I don't worship anybody too much. Um, because the worst thing to do is to meet your heroes. You'll discover how human they are if you're not ready for that. um, I've been blessed to have mostly really good experiences with all my heroes, even the ones that were a little weird. Help me become a better version of myself for the people whom I have to serve and those who will serve me. Um, I learned from Badu to be myself. I learned from Lenny to continue to be excellent. I've never met anybody who could outwork him. The only other person maybe who works as hard is Madonna. Um, Raheem Devon, who I consider my brother, a very hard worker. Anthony Hamilton, who I came up with as a support singer, whom we both kind of went into our own thing at the same time. I consider him a big brother. You know, I went on tour with him, and it was really by chance. You know, again, being available to serve, somebody called me to open up for him at the Lincoln Theater in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he loved my show so much when I was practicing to the track. He was like, "You know, my whole band, all of us are family. Let the guys play for you." And his band played for me while I opened for him for 9 cities for House of Blues. And so, you know, that's the pedigree I come from, that we're all in this thing to make it grow and to make it expand, and that my stage is not my own, but it belongs to others. And I've been really blessed to be in company with others who are like that. You know, Anthony Hamilton is my big brother. Anderson Paak is my little brother. You know, he used to music direct for me. And when I would come to LA, and I'm just so proud of his progress. You know, I often say, when somebody said, all your friends are making it, it's only a matter of time for you. And I also say that some of the reason why I'm not where I would have liked to have been is because I allowed myself to be distracted
Mm.
by things that had nothing to do with my purpose. Sometimes I'm adopting someone else's purpose more than my own, because to take a moment to put a magnifying glass on myself was too either a painful or would take too much work. And so one of the things that I think is extremely important that I learned from these people is that they were undistracted by lovers, friends, or children. They got it done. They got it done. And it helped me to understand that um, a little healthy self encouragement, self faith in oneself is not a bad thing.
Mm.
Again, I go back to the part where it says, "My Ori is my first God." And if that is such, then that means it's okay for me to pour into myself to become that thing. I just got so excited being the, being the midwife to everybody else's stuff, that I looked up one day and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't put out a record in like 5 years. And now people might forget me." And some did, but others remembered. And to those who do, that's why I'm still here.
Tell me about some of the distractions specifically, because I think that a lot of times people think that they're on an island. Like I just had a guy in our men's group the other day, and he was dealing with something with his son. And I have a son that's around that age, and I have a daughter who was at that age, and she was dealing with the exact same thing, but he felt he was alone. He felt that he was on an island. And when I think there's so many people that when they realize that a legend like yourself actually deals with something, it breathes life into them. So what were some of the specific distractions that you had, and what were the toughest ones for you to battle with? Because there's distractions, YahZarah, and we can almost stiff arm them, right? And we have some strength.
Right.
But then there's ones that, like, I mean, I'm telling you, for me, it's ice cream sandwiches. I could be on the best eating habits of all time, but you bring in some carnation ice cream sandwiches, I'm smashing the whole box. You know what I'm saying? I have but I could work for 24 hours a day. I could stay focused. I could do all these things. I push all these things. You bring carnation ice cream sandwiches in, I'm done. What is yours?
Love.
Mm.
And my past, and how all that ties together, because ultimately what we battle as adults are really just the little kid inside of us that's searching for that thing that we needed to feel safe or be validated by as children. And so my biggest final boss was myself. And all the final bosses that came in my life were a result of my either fear of not pleasing others, because I wanted to be loved and liked. I'm an only child. We struggle with that. We want to make family out of everybody. We want to be loved. We want to be liked. And so many times I made decisions based upon my desire to be loved and validated outside of myself, because of my color cast beginnings, because of dealing with issues surrounding molestation and um, self love that came from those things. I spent the entirety of my career seeking to be amazing because when I was amazing at this voice, you saw me, you heard me, you thought of me as beautiful, you knew I existed. Then who are you when you're not doing that? In my case, I was a people pleaser. Even when I was supposed to be sitting on a throne, I would get off the Iron Throne and blow it off and then spray it down and disinfect it so someone else could sit in my gifting, opposed to allowing myself to say it's actually okay to get crowned. It's okay to be great. You don't have to pretend for anyone. And sometimes the pretending backfired when someone would discover how good I was at something. And then they'd be angry as if I was deceiving them. And the truth was, I just wanted to bow at your feet. I felt like I was getting gifted, and I didn't want to offend you by being too good. And that's crazy, right? That's crazy
Mhm.
business. I spent, I've been in the music business now, I guess I'd say almost 30 years. I probably spent the last 26 of it being a people pleaser,
Wow.
unnecessarily so. I even had a colleague of mine say, well, we all benefited off the fact that you were afraid to live. You were afraid to be who you were, and we benefited from that. And I had to take a minute and sit in that because sometimes when someone tells you about yourself, you want to deny it. But then I sat down and said, oh, that's the same little kid who would say, if I give you this, if I hand this to you, you'll love me. And people, sometimes I would hand things to people and they'd be like, but you're supposed to have this. And often you either have the people who believe that every gift is theirs to take, or you have the people who don't believe that anything belongs to them and that they're unworthy of receiving.
Mhm.
And in my case, I grappled with the side of me that felt like this is my future to grasp, but I'm here to serve. So how can I take it and still be myself? And that was the problem. Now I'm good at it. I know how to say no. I know how to say, oh no, this is below my gifting and I need to be paid.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, I need to get my credit on that. Please put sound recording or vocal production or written by. Oh no, that 15% is not enough. I wrote the song, you laid a verse. I need my money, these things. And so I started being known as the midwife and not the main event to
Mhm.
some. And while being that at the same time. And that's wild business. But I know somebody in the audience can identify with hearing one set of things about you. You get it in here in this Ori, your mind, and it tells you who you are, and you give yourself improper information about who you are and where you're supposed to go. But the very moment that you decide to log on to your purpose and decide that you are worthy of being more than just simply a midwife, that you can be crowned, then everything starts to open up. And when I did that, things got better. The catalyst for that was my divorce and having to really lean into myself and into my child and into a new beginning that seemed unsure. I got a license to sell real estate in 2012, 2013. I started selling real estate. I moved to New York because I was determined that I was going to resurrect my career and myself by going to the place that I'd been too afraid to go to because I felt like I would be considered unworthy when I got there. The whole time, people would be like, you got to come to New York. But somehow, my son and wanting to be a success in his presence and that desire drove me to New York and has kept me in this all the time, to be a hero to myself, to be a hero to my child, to be a hero to the women who look up to me for having pulled myself up by my emotional bootstraps in 2010 and not giving up on my life. Those are the people now who I make music for. But first, I do it for myself so that I'm not distracted by that white noise that tells me I'm unworthy because I haven't dealt with that.
Take me to the Ceremony album.
The Ceremony is a story of puberty after 40, um, of coming into the new phase of myself, of commanding myself to pick up my cross and keep it moving. And the songs are the stories around it. Beautiful User was me discovering that everybody can go on the journey, and that some people were there sucking on you and they can't come. There's a part that says, you know, I thought you needed a good friend. But the truth is, you don't know how to be a friend to anybody. So I wish you luck, but I wish it for you all the way over there. While I get me back from the beautiful users. And we're not leaving the light on for them. And then I had Ashes because when I was pregnant with my son, I used to play the song Beauty for Ashes over and over again, by Ty Tribbett, because I felt as if everything I had loved had kind of burned to the ground. I had a very dramatic and unfriendly ending with the foreign exchange. I had been considered for a Grammy in these categories. And at the same time, I was separating from my ex-husband at the time. I ended up getting pregnant in the gray area where people aren't quite sure what they're going to do. And we had this child coming, and I was basically a single mother, a single woman. And I thought I'd done all the things right. I got through college, I got married, I had this beautiful all white wedding Jeremiah Wright presided over. I'm a jet bride. The things that you assemble your life around. And who are you when God sees the fallacies and the lies in that thing you built that isn't built around reality? Because some of you had to be sacrificed for it. And then God hands someone or you a match and it has to burn to the ground in order for the new you to be built again. And Beautiful Ashes is a song about, someone had to set a fire so the seeds could pop out. The forest that we had was full of mold. It wasn't the forest that was helping me grow. And Beautiful Ashes about the forest that had to burn down so that the new me could be. And The Ceremony is a record about a woman coming of age, figuring out what it's like to date, falling in love, falling out of love with herself, with others, all these things. And I just feel honored to have been the vessel who was able to do it. And it took me time. It took me about 6 years to finish and to put it out because, of course, I was self funding it as an independent artist who was also raising a child and flying back and forth to see said child because I was in court, in and out of court, because people love to put double barrels on a woman who decides to pursue art and not something different than what she's been told to. Um, Having my femininity, my womanhood, and my motherhood challenged made me a better human being because I had to defend my right to live as myself freely. And The Ceremony is that record made during that time.
What are you working on now as far as, and what's inspiring you?
So many things are inspiring me. For the longest, I was trying to figure out what it was I wanted to say to the world. Because again, as a person who sees myself as a servant, some of the usual subject matter that people sing about is beyond me. The only things I know how to sing about are love in its forms. Um, I can't. I don't really go to parties. I have a house party because I like to party with people I know. So, to sing about family, to sing about love. The song Mother of Nine that I just really recently did with Terry Hunter, I'm really proud of because it's a worship song. It's a worship song to one of the deities that holds my head, Oya, who watches over mothers, who watches over the poor, who is the mother of the storehouse, as we call it. And they call her the Mother of Nine. Um, and because she had nine births and only one came to fruition. And I see myself in her as a person who's had many births, and only now I'm coming into the birth of myself. Mother of Nine is one of these songs that's going to make you twirl and dance, but it's also going to touch something deep within that reminds you to keep hope alive. And that as we continue to do that, as we praise the God that's in us, whomever he or she may be for us, that's how miracles are made. Working with Raheem Devon and the Crank Crusaders has been so much fun because I'm writing songs with Vidal Davis for the record. And Vidal Davis, if many of you all may or may not know him, he wrote It's Love for Jill Scott. He has written for Floetry. He's definitely a founding grandfather of the soul movement in music. He's worked with Lauryn Hill, so many people. And so to be able to write, 3 songs for the Crank Crusaders along with him has been amazing. We have a single out called Tambourine. It's gone viral. We have a whole lot going on with that. Yes, and I am working on and finishing my record. And I do plan to be doing a GoFundMe because I don't want it to take 10 years for me to put this record out for you guys again. But a single is coming in September that is really exciting and near to my heart called Building.
Mm.
And the premise is, are you building or complaining? In this time, in this season where we are constantly being um, distracted by people in high places, principalities and powers, that can make us forget how blessed we are, and how even when things are at their lowest, if we are still building the world we want to see, then we can have the world we desire.
Mm.
And so, building is my love song to the people, to serve you, to remind you that you were just simply a soul before you ended up in these bodies with hopes and dreams for your future. Don't let them die simply because things seem difficult. Are you building or are you complaining? And I'm super grateful that Madaku Chinwe, who was one of the writers and producers on Mama's Gun as well as on Baduism, wrote this song along with myself. And when he sent this song to me, he said, I don't think there was any other person who could have sung this but you. And I feel uniquely blessed for that because I usually don't sing songs written by other people. I did write on this,
Yeah.
but I can't take full credit for its vision.
Mm.
And Madaku Chinwe is probably one of the most incredible singer-songwriters, vocalists of our time. He just put out a funk album. I'll send it to you so you can listen to it. It is no skips. It is the epitome of Black family and the cookout hour and just joy, and that's what we need in the world. And so my next record is going to settle um supremely in the middle of those songs that have to do with building joy, reminding us who we are, and also speaking truth to power.
Help me with this, because most of the time when a person sees, again, I reiterate it to you as much as I possibly can to honor you. When you see a legend in music, and when I say a legend of neo soul, I don't think of, I think it's not enough. It's a legend musically, like you are. And you see the people that have had the opportunity to work with you, the Erykah Badu's of the world, the Lennys of the world, the Madonnas, the Anderson Paak, and the list goes on, the Roots, all these things. Help me to understand, though, because in my head, I think, okay, if that's the case, when you go and do a solo project, it literally is just going to be, it's just, again, goes back to the golden road, right? We just walk down the golden road and everything works out for YahZarah because everything works out for YahZarah. Although when I meet and I'm around artists, I realize, say like with Franklin that worked with Lenny for 15 years, he does a solo project. You still have to put in an immense amount of work. And I think as an audience member, as a person who absolutely loves your music and loves to be able to listen to it, when I understand the story behind it and the things that you have to go through as an independent artist to be able to make sure that that name gets out, that song gets out, that people are playing it, that they're sharing it with their friends, take me through that as an independent artist, even with the type of resume that you have, the things that you have to go through to be able to get it out in people's ears.
It's not the people. The people are not the problem.
Mm.
The people want the music. The people want the shows. They want to see them. it's that the game has changed and it's based upon algorithms and so much of the social networking. And truthfully, I'm gone back to my roots. I've gone back to street teams and handbills, and um, I've never stopped doing those things. But instead of looking so much towards the digital, where a lot of it is, pay for play, pay for followers, pay to play at the venues. First thing I do is remind myself that I'm supposed to be doing this, and my gift will make room for itself, but that I have to do the work of staying self-encouraged, because there are a lot of walls for an independent artist, because to have many of the things that you need to be visible, the impasse is money. And I've been very blessed again that people still want to see my work. Am I a rich woman because of my work? No. Is it easy to make sure that people know what I'm doing? Not necessarily. But what I also have been doing recently is I created a mobile alert system where if people want to know what it is I'm doing, where I'm at, where they can catch me, it's a Partyful link. Partyful is one of the most amazing apps I've discovered. I can tell everybody what I'm doing and where I'm at in real time by hitting them on their phones. So my network is there. I have my website. I have my Starship cadets. I send them their newsletters. Um, I create relationship because I truly do love the people I serve. When people seek to allow me to get to know them as fans of my music, I remember birthdays. I celebrate births with my fans.
Mm.
I send them condolences when they lose their parents because they're human beings like me. There have even been some fans who become family as a result of that. And I think my fans specifically, because they've watched me um, at my highest and my lowest, both publicly, we have a relationship that's bigger than my music. They've wed to my purpose now. They know I'm a human being like them, and this experience, sharing my gift, just like they need, and not being afraid of what I have to sacrifice to do so. uh, I just do the work and keep my head down. And as long as I'm able to continue to sing and do that, that's what brings me joy. That's how I know people are listening. Um, the internet, it's just like Tribe said, I never let a statue tell me how nice I am. Um, this year I'm celebrating the anniversary of the Ballad of Miss Purple St. James. I'll be at North Carolina Central University October 10th. I'll be doing full band and show performance. I'll be doing master classes. I'm coming to North Carolina to serve while also coming to get. And I think that that is what I bring to the landscape when I bring my music. And that's how I stay here.
Mm. How do you know as a songwriter? Like I have a couple of them. Black Star for I just wrote down certified banger.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Black Star. Honestly, like I turned it on and I was picking up my son. I remember I was picking up my son from school. I'm sitting in a truck and I just turn it up, but I turn it up and I could tell that people that are walking by can hear it. And like I'm in my truck by myself parked. Like if you're driving and you've got your music loud, it's different than when you're just parked and you have your music really loud. And
Right.
this was amazing. Two questions for it. Number one, who was it about? And number two, because when you listen to that song, I mean, in my head, I'm always about the story of it. And when you're a songwriter like yourself, you're never just writing for, you know, when you tune into YahZarah, you're not going to get, oh wow, this is the hot take, this is the trend, so I'm going to make a story about this. This is like you're a storyteller, like a real
Yeah.
storyteller. So, two questions: who was it about? And then the second one: how do you know as a songwriter when to write a banger as opposed to a ballad, as opposed to something that just makes someone sit and chill? Because it's something that sometimes people only have one style, but you have all of them.
I never really sit down with that in mind. When people give me music, I listen to it to see what my soul says, and then it writes. A lot of times, I don't really have written words. I think of myself as a vocal channel, for lack of a better word, and that, um, for example, a song off of my first record, Hear Me, a lot of the songs that are on the Black Star record are actually from my very, very first rendering, which was called Hear Me. And I'm going to be re-releasing that this year because there's songs that didn't make Black Star that are on that record that people need to experience and hear and enjoy. But Black Star and Love Is You were both freestyles. They started with a freestyle or a phrase, and I just sung the rest of it in a take. And um,
Hold on, YahZarah. You didn't sit and write that out. You just
no, I don't ever do that.
was that?
It's always I'm always being channeled. That's how I, like I said, that's how I know my work is divine. If it was
Wow.
just simply me being able to be like, I want to write a song today, and I can write a song, oh God, how easy my life would be. I am good at doing that for other people, but when you're talking about me interpreting my life,
Yeah.
God does not allow me to get away with it not coming straight from my heart.
So you
Um,
do you hear your process? This is always so fascinating to me. Your process. Do they bring the beat to you, or do you say, "I need this type of beat"? Like when you did the doom 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 doom, like you know the song that I'm talking about,
yeah.
right? You did that just
Right.
a second ago, and that took me back to a moment in time where I left my parents for the first time. I moved across the country. I was living in Memphis at the time, and I left my family for the first time. I was 21 years old, took a $62,000 pay cut a year to go after my dream,
Yes.
and
Wow.
I was struggling financially, and I heard doom 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 doom, doom. And I watched the video on a cabinet TV, and that it was in my uncle's house. I lived in the back room because I couldn't afford rent on my own. I heard that song. For those of you who know, YahZarah, tell them that song. What is that song?
Oh, that's on and on.
That's
Dum,
and
dum,
game changer.
dum. And forever, when you hear that, you're gonna know what's happening. You're gonna know what it's homage to. And I'm even now over the years where I've heard people like still bits and pieces and sample it. It's exciting to me. And I also quite recently I just realized I just found out I was sampled for a hip hop artist. He sampled Black Star for one of his songs. And it slaps. So I made sure I reposted him. But to be in the game long enough to be sampled myself, to, understand what those things mean, when I'm making a piece of music, I'm telling my stories as intimately and as honestly as I can because I'm a bad liar. And I think that sometimes that's been why it's taken me so long to finish a record because it's the track. I have to hear it all of a sudden. It speaks to me. Now I have a song. When I worked with Raymond Angry, who I love working with dearly, he's worked with Elvis Costello, Solange Knowles, The Roots. He's a main collaborator with them. And he collaborated with me for a lot of the ceremony. When I wrote Beautiful Ashes, he was just playing some keys. And I started to feel sick. I just finished writing Running, which was half freestyle, half written. And I started to feel like I was going to throw up on his rug. And I was so embarrassed. But I didn't start feeling better until I started singing over those keys. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't better until I finished writing the song. And I think that it goes to show it's a testament to my testimony that it's bigger than me. The songs are bigger than me. I am as good as my company because I'm not an island. I have some really great producers whom I love. Chip Shearing worked on my first project with me. Little John Roberts played drums all over that first project. These are my uncles. These are the people who I cut my teeth on. People like Jimmy Heath. Um, I had big jazz names as uncles and teachers and mentors, and so you hear that tradition kind of pour itself into the work that I do. And then I graduated and got these other aunties, Erykah Badu, Lenny Kravitz, Madonna, people who didn't realize I was learning at the time. And by then I had, yes, made my own music, but it still pours into me to this day, those spaces and places I was in when I stepped in front of a microphone and I began to sing. I'm really, really proud of the music that I'm making for this upcoming project. And it means something to me to be able to present Late Bloomer to the world, which is what the record is called, Late Bloomer. I've always considered myself a person who's bloomed a little bit late, but always on time.
Mm.
And my songs are a prerequisite of that. Black Star was a vulnerable song written about my collaborator, Fonte Coleman, when we were in college. And how I was like, oh, I think I like this guy. It's the first thing. The whole record, Hear Me, was pretty much about our relationship as these 21, 22-year-old people coming of age and discovering what love looks like, what love means. And I always laugh because we would write these songs back and forth to one another and post them online when YouTube was new. And, I was the first to go out there and get these records and to do these songs. And then I gave um, Fonte's comedy album to Amir. And that's how he became aware of Little Brother. And the rest for them is history. So that record, that particular record, Hear Me, that ended up being recycled into Black Star, um, is a very tender time for me because I was really becoming myself. And those songs are written by a young girl in her diary, singing and writing down her feelings, and then going to the microphone and freestyling and looking at something she might have written as poetry. And that's how you got Can You Feel Me and Black Star and Urgency and those songs. Urgency is another song I kind of just wrote in like 10 minutes, Starship, that's on the Ballad of Purple St. James, I wrote in 15 minutes when Steve McKee sent me that track and I heard it. The pain of my childhood, the search for being someplace where I felt safe and wanted came out in that song. That's why you hear it. Finally found a place where I don't feel mistreated. Finally found a space where I feel safe. That's my story. That's my song. That's my life. You know, where a place where I could find myself. I felt at the time that I had wrestled with myself and came out on the other side. And if you're a good, church girl, or you've ever dealt with anything biblically, you know that there's a story about a man who wrestled with an angel and came out on the other side with a new name. And so I felt as if, and I still feel like sometimes I'm wrestling with that angel, but that's how I came to be. I wrestled with myself, and these songs come out of those various things I wrestle with. But whether they be joy and trying to get more and find it, or love and trying to keep it for myself and others.
Take me to Why Don't You Call? Because um, when I looked at the reason why I'm saying this is because, again, you have bangers, you have ballads, you have things that just chill you out. In this one, it had a ska and kind of punk feel to it, to me. That kind of feeling. So the range of music that I get a chance to be able to experience all have a common thread, which is soul. And this is what my pops raised me on, was, with Marvin Gaye and Al Green, but he also had Led Zeppelin playing, and he had the Eagles, and he had, but all of the music that I connected with, just myself, had a soul and a heartbeat to it. Take me to that, Why Don't You Call?
Well, it's a funny story. So the song that's on the Ceremony Legend, I'd written that for Frenchie Davis. And that was originally going to be on the very first version of the Ballad of Purple St. James. So the Ballad of Purple St. James was a record I'd actually already finished. And then I had started touring with the Foreign Exchange as a whole. We were doing the Connected album, and we had some ups and downs previously, but I was feeling really comfortable in the studio again with Tay. And we both said, he and Nick were like, hey, I mean, this is a great album, but we could really help you make a better one if you just let us be a part of this record. And I loved my first iteration, but I also just really wanted a chance to resurrect the love that we made original records with. Um, and I was like, well, shoot, let's do it. And so he and Nick said, I know you did a rock record, but I think we have one that could be, is more traditionally sounding, and what do you think about ska? And I was like, well, I love ska. I came up on, if you ever loved Culture Club, like if you loved Wham, then you came up on ska. Like, I love No Doubt, the ska band. I love Fishbone, of course. Do your thing. And he came back with the track for Why Don't You Call Me? And, I can't take a whole bunch of credit. Like, Tay pinned a lot of that song and we pinned it together and we had fun, and I laughed because, when I sing it, I always say, I wrote this song for my prom date. I still hate him, but I don't, wherever you are out there, I love you, man. We family. But, I really loved doing that song because whimsically it was an opportunity for me to talk about. Everybody loves to say that I wish him well, I wish her well, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want them to feel it, and it's okay to want them to feel it. And this song is about somebody who really wants him to feel it. And the way a man will feel the pain that he gave somebody else is to give birth to somebody else who he loves as a little girl he wants to trust, wants to be safe and in the presence of somebody trustworthy. And they do. That's what I hope you have a little girl, and she's the apple of your eye. You never see her cry. That's till somebody breaks her heart where you did mine. Yeah. So yes.
Well, you
And
know
I
what?
meant it. I did
You,
it. Lord forgive me.
you know what I wrote down, YahZarah, is I wrote down Mickey, You're So Fine. You remember that song?
Yes. And yes.
This
Yes.
is what it
Yes. It is.
reminded me of. So when I was sitting, I was like, oh, I feel that. And here it is. Like I've been a uh, I've been a Maxwell fan, D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Anthony Hamilton, The Roots, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest. Like that is my, and when you said Foreign Exchange and Little Brother, let's stop for a second. I want to go down that rabbit hole because I believe that Foreign Exchange and Little Brother, like that whole genre is not appreciated the way that it should be.
No.
As when it comes to hip hop, when it comes to like that's something that everyone should have on like heavy rotation.
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to a man named Chip Augustus Shearing, who had a music industry class at North Carolina Central University, with a woman named Brenda Hamden, who was a doctorate of music, an organist, and a performer herself. And her ex-husband, played drums for Luther Vandross. Chip played guitar for the Sugar Hill Band, played bass guitar for Sugar Hill Gang, and for Madonna at one point. And so he would be the one who would be my producer. And what he did and doesn't get enough credit for is saying to Tay, Darian Brockington, Ninth Wonder, Pat Douthit, Pooh Bear Jones, William Jones, and myself, you guys need to study organized noise. You all need to study organized noise. You need to study their magic. You need to study what they did. I had already been studying it when I was in a group called In Time with Eugene Young, because they ate, breathed, and slept organized noise. That's where I fell in love with Goody Mob and all these records, and Dallas Austin's work. And I got Sunshine in the Rain and a maxi single in the seventh grade of Joy. So I was already ready to have this conversation. And Chip was like, I think you guys are so talented. There's such a pool of talent here at NCCU that you guys could just be your own one-stop shop. And that's what we did. That's what we did. And then OK Player opened up a whole new door. And then you had, AOL Messenger that made it possible for Fonte and Nicolay, who met on OK Player via the internet, to make the very first Connected album before Leave It All Behind. And I was at the time signed to Three Keys Records working on the Black Star album, and going to school. And we would just, these were records made from love. And when I look at organized noise, and I miss the days of collectives. I really do miss the days of collectives because
Mm-hmm.
they came up with such collective amazing sound. We have Outkast, Goody Mob, Joy Gilliam, um, oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of all the groups we have because of organized noise that have changed the landscape musically. And we exist. We existed because of them. So I have to give them flowers. And I have to give Chip Shearing flowers for saying, I'm not going to individualize this gang just yet. I'm going to teach them how to create in collectives and see what can happen to change an entire trajectory of not just something for themselves, but maybe an entire city. And that's what we did. I wish someone would do a documentary on the Bull City Sound and what happened in Durham during those years, because there were only two clubs you could play at in Durham. It was either Talk of the Town or the Executive Club. And that's where I started playing. And so little brother, well, not little brother at the time, Fonte, Pat, Pooh, um, oh my God, Sean Don, and then would come to my open mic night that I had at this place called the Cosmic Cantina. And they would come and freestyle and do their thing. And this is before they were little brother. And I became their hook singer. And so that's how all of this kind of came together. You know, a bunch of kids doing what kids do, becoming a collective, starving together, dreaming together. And 30 years later, that's the story.
Why do you think today the collective isn't as popular? Like I saw a group. I'm actually going to bring them up. I'll find them. I've been listening to them on Instagram. They're out of Brooklyn, and it's four kids, hip hop. They got a great sound to them. And then I just saw one. I think it's Lil Mizzy and I can't remember. They're out of. I want to say they're out of New York City, and I saw them on Instagram, and I was just like, I loved the music because it wasn't just hearing one voice like you're talking about. There was a collective. There was I mean, we think about probably one of the greatest collectives of all time in Wu-Tang. You had ODB, and then you had the voice of Method Man, and then you had the RZA. You had Inspector Deck. All that you got to experience on a record. Why do you think that doesn't happen as much anymore?
I think that a lot of creation is done in silos now that the digital age has happened. Before, you kind of had to raise money with your homies to go to the studio. Like there
Mm.
was a collective push to go to the studio. Like you had to put up a collection among yourselves. You had to work in a team because you may not. Somebody learned how to engineer. Another person knew how to put all this stuff together. Another guy went and took the Pro Tools course and got the Pro Tools thing and gave it to everybody else so we could all have the Pro Tools. And then, it took more team effort to build something than it does now. And I always said, I was having this conversation actually with Fonte, this is some years ago, and you can kind of tell when there's a producer that when there's not a producer in the room with a very talented person or not a collective to bounce things off of. um, I miss that. And also that's one of the things that some of the major artists still have going for them is that they have the budgets to bring a collective into the room with collective talents and create certain things together. um, the cool thing about very young people is that they want to share with one another. I actually think people get stingier as they get older.
Mm.
And so you also don't see a lot of that because we're encouraged to be stingy by a world that wants us to be as individual as possible. If we were more into collective everything, there wouldn't be any hungry people. So, the idea of the collective means that you have to believe that the people that you're with actually believe the best for you and want to create something beautiful with you. And we're suffering from a disease of mistrust in this country, period. So when people can come together and make music based upon trust, that's a miracle, especially when the digital age has made it so possible to be in your own silo. So I think that's why we see less collectives. Also, a lot of your better singers and stuff came from religious entities, churches. They came to church every Sunday. They were there 7 days a week. They made music with the people that they knew and the folks that they grew up with. And that doesn't happen as much. People don't cannot afford the same collective things that they used to be able to support. Now, what I do seeing that's have been seeing that's really exciting is because of the times that we're in, we're getting squeezed back into that collective ideal of like, I have to I got to be in community with people in order to create. I have to be in community with people in order to eat. I have to be in community with people in order to emotionally survive. And I think that because of that, you're going to see new collectives like the Foreign Exchange, like the Roots just started off as a collective, you know, that's all. And then Badu came, their sister, and D came, and all these people. That's all. Motown was a collective.
Yeah.
But Berry Gordy understood the art of artist development. And artist development collectives come from the willingness to develop something. And you can't develop on your own. And that's how your collective comes to be. But you have to have the humility to believe that there's something to develop. And now that everybody can have a computer screen and a Wookiee mic at home to make their next best record, there's nobody there to quality control their efforts. Everybody believes they're a virtuoso.
If you were to make a super team, YahZarah's super team, and you were going to make a collective record, who's in the collective?
Okay. In my collective is, I'm so glad you asked me this question because this has been on my mind to write it down. Raphael Sadiq. I just love the way he interprets singers, and I really am in love with vintage sound, and I think that my voice conjures vintage feeling. So I would want to work with him. I would want to work with, oh my gosh, and why am I forgetting the producer who worked on Amy Winehouse's album? In my brain, it draws a blank. It'll come to me. If I could resurrect anybody from the dead to work with on my dream team, it would be Prince and Rick James. It would be a summit of peace in the studio with Rick and Prince, who didn't love each other the most. And because I want some bops, I would want to work with Michael Jackson because he made multifaceted, multi-genred music for everybody to love based upon the idea that we are all universally God's children. And that would really excite me. And a live band to play the music. Oh, hold up. And Nona Hendrix, pardon me, because she got a mean pen, especially when it comes to writing songs about speaking truth to power. And the Meters, or Earth, Wind, and Fire, circa 78 would be the band.
Who would bring? I obviously Prince is going to have vocals. Rick James is going to have vocals. Would you bring in any hip hop flavor? And if so, who would you want? And as far as, because there's different cadences, right?
Absolutely. Q-Tip. He's at the top of my list.
Well, that's a thing that we didn't even.
Music.
It's a thing that we didn't even talk about. You worked with Q-Tip also, so.
Actually, I haven't worked with Q-Tip. I
never
can't take it. I've not worked with Q-Tip. Q-Tip and I have been on some shows together.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, we did the Hennessy Artistry Tour together, which was backed by the Roots, which was crazy. Come full circle moment because I'm on there on the marquee with my old boss Badu, and with Amir, my big brother from tour, and it was really awesome to be playing my own music and singing with them and showing what I could do. And I really, actually, I would have the Roots play on my record. I would love to work with Amir. I think he's masterful at what he does. Hip hop, yeah, it would probably be like Amir. Amir has a really great musical vocabulary that I enjoy. He can work with singers. He can work with hip hop artists. He can work with orchestras. I would work with Melanie Charles, who is a flautist because she has an amazing grasp of hip hop, but she's also jazz and cycles around a lot of different things. I would want to have some women producers in the room. I love her, Her. I think she's amazing. I think she works in the tradition of artists whom I already love, and I would love to have her in the room. I'm trying to think. And James Brown.
Yes.
For order. Gotcha. You need a gotcha. Oh, some shit. And I would love to work with Lenny. Lenny is the only the other person who I believe I've always wanted to work with. And what's funny is when I did Black Star, um, the label wanted to pair me with Lenny to co-produce the album, and I'm wearing Lenny's pants. He probably doesn't even know this. I'm wearing Lenny's pants on the cover for my record, as well as the inside sleeves. I'm wearing like these purple pants that he wore on the Carnival album, and a pair of these like orange pants are on the cover when you pull the coverlet out, and those are his pants. And it's so funny to even, years later, I've ended up working with him. At the time, I think I was so dead set on a specific sound that I didn't really realize how the only point of reference I had for him at the moment was "It Ain't Over Till It's Over," which was the soundtrack for my seventh grade breakup. And although it sounded good, I didn't see the vision at the time, and I always wished that I had let him produce that record, because now I know, having worked with him, how absolutely immersed in so many of the same things that I am that he is. We were, blushing all over each other over David Bowie and Young Americans. And, one of the reasons that I went back to my blonde short is because he was like, "You remind me of Ava Cherry, and you need to, would you cut it for me?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I'll do it." I might not do that for everybody, but I'd already done it before, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. It'll take me back to my roots." And we would watch these videos of old soulful performances. And I loved Jimi Hendrix and Buddy Miles, and just, I was a kid with this huge vocabulary of music because my dad was a DJ and so was my mom. So meeting Lenny was just like confirmation of myself. But at the time, I only had one identification when in 2003, and when we started working together, I was like, "God damn it, I should have let him produce the album." But that's, he would have to be in the room because I have to finally make it happen. And also Elvis Costello, because he is so heartfelt when he writes a song. I think part of his perspective comes from it being the child of blue collar workers, and the way he writes about life and people and just everyday hard work.
And Bobito, there's so many artists that wouldn't have been broke. Like they would come to his radio station, they would come to their show, and before they were signed. I mean, you're talking, Wu-Tang was on before they were signed, Jay-Z was on before he was signed, all ODB, all these people. And I think about when the connection point with you and Anderson .Paak, I learned about Anderson .Paak because DJ 88, which is a friend of mine, Brie Delano, she's in LA now, and she used to be in Vegas. But there's also, I was just talking with my friend DJ Synapse, and he was saying that the DJ game has kind of changed a bit. But in our era, YahZarah, a DJ literally, like a DJ Red Alert, could change somebody's life in a instant. How
DJ
important are they now? Was that?
I still believe DJs are sound designers, in my opinion. DJs who think of themselves as sound designers, as I'm a land this plane. When you go to church, there's a team of people who get you started. They sing the songs that you end up singing privately. They guide you towards your way to worship. The DJ guides you towards the music that sets the soundtrack for your life. They point you in the direction of music for every phase of your world. That's in the iteration that we knew our DJs in, right? Um, they dictated culture because they also threw things. The internet, again, and it's not the devil, but it definitely has killed the "I get to touch my DJ." My DJ touches me through music. He tells me what my vinyl is. I listen to him on the radio. I make a request for a song. I get to kiss or diss my favorite record and be a part of making it become something. Like, I do miss that. I miss the way the DJ would be at the Midnight Madness cell, waiting for you as well, broadcasting from said Midnight Madness cell for the artists that you love. That I do miss. It was the personal touch. I believe that more so people like yourself have become the new line of defense and quality for the world. You talk about what it is you love, you talk about the people you love, and you point people in the direction of it. That's what DJs used to do. An artist used to be excited about going on the radio show, talking about their music, and then performing said music. And that doesn't happen the same anymore. But at the same time, now I get to look at you, you get to look at me, and we get to have these interpersonal conversations that create something. Where DJs, the spirit of payola killed the individuality of what the DJ got to do.
Wow.
Am I making sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, and I want to thank you for the sentiment about, like, for myself, again, when I think music, there's so many different sides. I grew up in a house with my pop that was playing anywhere from my brother ended up with all hard rock, like Van Halen, Motley Crue. He even listened to Rat. He doesn't like to admit that. But he was on the rock and roll kind of heavy metal hair band kind of side, while I was in the room right next door, and we had the same dad, but I was listening to Marvin Gaye, Al Green, Michael Jackson, the Sugar Hill Gang,
Right.
all those genres. And I just think that it's so imperative and so important to be able to have conversations like that. And also, like, I think about De La, right? One of my favorite groups of all
Mhm.
time. If it wasn't for Maceo, the group isn't there. Obviously, if it isn't for Dave, or if it isn't for Pasa News, all of them. But I tell you, like, Maceo, I wish that we would give more credit in
Yeah.
those places. And here's the loop where you said land the plane. Here's the landing of the plane. We were talking about collectives earlier, and it popped in my head, and I know you're going to feel this one. Probably one of my favorite collectives of all time only did one album,
Wow.
and it was Don from En Vogue, Ali Shaheed Muhammad from Tribe Called Quest, and Raphael Sadiq.
We were just talking about this last week, so please continue.
No, but what does that bring up? What emotion does that bring up? That album. Now, if you haven't listened to it in a while, you need to get the vinyl, you need to get the CD, you need to get the tape, and put them all together, and then play them individually. Pow, pow. I mean, that's a non-skip. That's a non-skip.
Completely. Completely. And also shout out to Don Robinson and also Terry Walker of En Vogue, because I cite them as two of the most influential voices on my voice as a teenage girl of all time, besides Minnie Riperton and all the usual suspects. But of that time period, those women were really shaping sopranos and making incredible things happen with their voices. So when I heard Don was, you know, in this group with Raphael Sadiq and Ali Shaheed Muhammad, it just seemed like this incredible zeitgeist had taken place. And that album, I think it actually at the time we were definitely coming together as the foreign exchange as well. We were influenced, connected, leave it all behind. That magic of making records that had bops and also had music you could fall in love to. I could say, I'll speak for myself, definitely was influenced by that Lucy Pearl album.
Don't mess with my man.
Also, you should be here. Like, it was just all these things. And of course, Raphael is going to bring that vintage Oakland sound to everything that he does. And then Ali Shaheed Muhammad with the beats.
Oh,
And then you have this vocalist kind of like bringing it all together. I really wish it would have lasted longer than it did. I feel like there was so much magic that could have been produced. And then they got Joy Gilliam. I was like, oh, this is going to happen. Ah, I would have loved to have heard more. I want to hear more. I also know that when you got two guys and a girl, sometimes things get weird in groups. And we lucky if we can get one or two albums out of that trifecta. Like I take it for as long as I get it. I pray for as long as it lasts, and then I get to enjoy it. Um, but I loved those records, and I again, I still feel like there's a movement about to take place that's going to really bring us back to the music that we loved
Yeah.
and that we enjoy, and also that the music that shaped how we love each other and how we deal with the world. And I know that because I listen to my son and listen to the music he's listening to, and he's listening to ours. He's 14.
What's he
His friends
listening
are
to?
like, I
What's
all
he
right now.
yeah, yeah, what's he listening to?
Absolutely. Quintessence. He really loves Quintessence. I was able to like give him that album again, which was nuts, really amazing. Um, who else did he turn me on to recently? This guy named Anime, who's Ethiopian, who's dope. He loves Sid, the internet. Also, I would love to have the internet in the room for a record. That's who I really love to work with. Um, who else? Yeah, Phyllis Hyman, which was like a wild card. I was like, you're listening to Phyllis Hyman? Okay. He loves Tribe Called Quest, particularly the Mass Marauders album. That's his thing, and Q-Tip's solo album.
Yes. Have
Those
you
are things that he likes regularly playing in the house.
Did you see the documentary where I don't know what documentary it was, but it was they were sitting down with Q-Tip and he was taking them through how he would dig in the crates, go to the record store, find one little loop, and then he showed his process on how he would slow it down, speed it up, and make that beat. And it was literally like he would take one tiny sample, but then he would elongate it, slow it down, or speed it up, and then he
And then
would
chop it up.
add in. Oh, it was, I mean,
Mhm.
absolutely masterful. As far as collectives too, um, for you remember Archie Bunker? Do you remember the Archie Bunker? Not music,
No.
but I'm talking about the show. Do you remember All in the Family?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We
Yeah.
loved Archie Bunker. Okay, yes.
And do you remember do you remember the Jeffersons was a spinoff of Archie Bunker?
I did not know that. You're
Okay,
hipping me.
so this was wild because Archie Bunker's dry cleaner was George Jefferson, and they brought him onto a couple of shows. And when he was on, their banter was so strong that they made a spinoff, which was the Jeffersons. And then what's crazy is the neighbor on the Jeffersons was Lenny's mom.
Yes, I
So
know Miss Roxy
yeah,
Roker. Yes. Mhm.
so what's when I say the spinoff, this is where I'm landing. I'm using your words is landing the plane. One of my favorite collectives is a group called Ozo Motley. And Ozo Motley, one of my other favorite collectives is Jurassic 5. And
Of
Jurassic
course, we love that.
5, Charlie Tuna, I think, has one of the most underappreciated hip hop voices in the game.
I agree. I
And
agree.
Ozo
Good
Motley's
people too.
first album, which is a mixture of jazz, funk, mariachi music, and hip hop, they had Charlie Tuna as their vocalist on their first album, and
Mhm.
their self-titled Ozo Motley. And that collective, which is wild, actually opened for Lenny when I got to see him here in San Diego for the very first time. And so back to the part of the collectives, were you a J5 fan?
Yes, we actually
Jurassic
did some
5?
touring. We actually did some touring with the Foreign Exchange with them. So, I love those guys. They were very, very sweet, and I enjoyed being out there with them. And I love Charlie Tuna's voice. Absolutely.
I wish that we would have honestly like when we look at that Lucy Pearl album, it had a hip hop feel, it had a neo soul feel, it had all those things. I wish that we could have some things like. Is there anything that you can let me know of that I can listen to now that's going to have a feel like that?
Mm. Oh, you know what? And it's leaving me, but I know you guys will dig and find it. And this is also like a good trivia question. Tidra Moses has twin sons, and they are two of the most incredible MCs I've heard in a long time. And they are in a collective that if Wu Tang Clan had a baby, with, Hmm. If they had a baby with Tribe and Poor Righteous Teachers, I would call them that, or a baby with them and Black Sheep. That it's a really awesome gumbo of hip hop sounds made with modern ideas from some really gifted young folk. And I, not that, that young folk. Oh my God, I'm dating myself. But yes. Oh my God, I'm saying things my mom says now. Oh my God. Take it back, YahZarah, take it back. But yes, her sons are in this really amazing, and I wish I could remember the name, y'all. I'm sorry, it's perimenopause, my brain fog. Um, but they really give me hope because I love the things that they are saying, and I love their flow, and it is very vintage. In fact, one of them is very ODB with like um his cadence and his flow and his delivery. It's like it got all this energy behind it that just you could tell people are listening to music. You could tell folks somebody has a thesaurus. You could tell that they read books and not pamphlets, and that they got bona fide minds. I can't say that about all the hip hop, all the the rap I hear. Like some people, I could tell they got a limited vocabulary, and I blame their parents.
I've never heard was the statement that you just said that they read pamphlets and not books. That makes so much sense.
Books and not pamphlets. I just need people who read books and not pamphlets
Mm,
for lots of different reasons. But when I hear an MC who I can tell appreciates the power of words and still reads books, I get really, really hype. And which is why I really love those boys. They're really, really dope. And I will try to find their music and send it to you. But Tidra Moses is mother to at least two of those gentlemen, and they are phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that because Tidra's my friend. I'm saying that because it's really great work.
Have you got a chance to experience adult contemporary hip hop, Arrested Development's newest one that they released last year?
I had a chance to hear some of the singles, but I love anything that comes out of that camp. Always excites me anyway. I love Speech.
Mm-hmm.
Much respect to Speech. Again, I think of them as part of the group of people who made me.
Yeah.
I actually have a copy of the live album that they did, the Unplugged, which is hard as heck to find. And I got it when I was in high school, and I still have it. And whenever I need to be reminded of creativity and just listening to what people can do when they're just not afraid to take chances, I listen to that Tribe Called Quest Unplugged album. And if you don't have it, you should find it, get it, go on eBay. If you're studying and you want to be a great performer and you want to see how somebody can tell the story in a way that your children, your aunties, and everybody can identify with, if you're trying to figure out the perfect gumbo of assets it takes to make music for the world, not just one group of people, I think that pardon me, um I think that Speech has embodied that
Yeah.
in the work that he's been doing all these years. And the collectives that he puts together are a mirror of who we are. So I'm excited. I'm always excited about anything he's doing. I haven't had a chance to listen to the whole album though.
Well, do me the favor. I mean, I want you to experience it and to be able to see it because this album, that it's adult contemporary hip hop. I was going to have him on the show, and so they sent Mike Mullins sent out the pre-release before it hit. And I went on a walk and I got myself lost in Utah. I was in the mountains and I just literally got lost and had it in the headphones. But I had my phone with me, so I was just writing notes the whole time. Every song, non-skip, different cadences, re-energized my love and faith in hip hop because you can imagine being a hip hop fan during kind of what's referred to as the golden age. That's my get off the lawn kind of, statement. But during that time, sometimes it was disheartening to hear some of the music that was coming out, to your point about, when everyone has a microphone or everyone could produce a song, they don't have the filters and the big brother like I did yesterday. I called him my brother with a gripe that I had. I said, I need your perspective. And I wanted him to jump in my boat or row with me in the direction I was going. And he was like, that sounds like a you problem. And I was like, man, I wanted to hang up on him. But I don't think enough people, YahZarah, have you know, that person. But I tell you, like for me with adult contemporary hip hop, when I listened to the full album, it re-energized my absolute love for the craft of hip hop.
I love that. I love that. And that excites me because I really want to hear records um that reignite purpose and joy in people. I feel like a lot of the music that we're getting right now is becoming is is becoming background noise because we don't have enough of the music that feeds.
Mm.
Uh, it's not that the music is not there, it just doesn't have enough platforms. And the music that fills you up with the junk food that makes it hard to get up in the morning exists everywhere. Um, and also, I enjoy my share of junk food, so I'm not crapping on it. Um, yeah, I like Cheetos. When I listen to songs like Scammers, and I was most recently asked, well, can y'all do a go-go rendition of that for the Crank Crusaders? And I was like, I boosted when I was a kid, but I didn't need a theme song. And if I had had one, I'd have done lots more damage to myself. And I really want to live in a world where we think more deeply as we create music, which is why I always loved Arrested Development, because as a kid, when you had like gangster rap coming out of the West Coast, and people wanting to be gangsters in New York, this amazing music coming out of the South through Speech and his collective gave little head wrap wearing girls like me somebody to
Mm.
listen to and see themselves in, and also others to see another option. I really am hoping that groups like Tidra's Sons, like the resurgence of a lot of our other artists that we knew, are going to help. But I also believe that what I never thought that the '90s would make a comeback, and at the time when I was in it, I just wanted the '70s to come back. I was a kid who wished I was born then, and to watch my son, who's 14, and his friends, wish that they had been present for New Jack Swing, is actually pretty awesome. And I'm curious to see what music is going to emerge as a result of that. I can already hear the sounds poking through, and that was fun music. That was cookout music. That was music to fall in love to. And I really do believe that the world is ready in the time that it seems like it's on fire to hear more of that.
Take me to "You Turn Me On." I just wrote down, it was a banger, and this is a compliment that I want to tell you is you have the ability that I haven't really seen before. And my friend Will and I were talking about it last night. I sent him a clip of a guy that was rapping, and he was rapping, and I was like, he's got good cadence, his voice is all right. But I said to my buddy, I was like, he's trying to impersonate M. And
Mm,
and it was like it was sad because the guy was very talented. His lyrical prowess was amazing, but even in his vocal and a bit of his most of his cadence was like, I just wanted to move on because he was just trying to be somebody else as opposed to just being
mm,
himself, which he's probably super talented. But it was back to you. You have the ability to be able to bring a vibe in,
mm.
but also it stay personal to you. And in "You Turn Me On," it gave me Sly and the Family Stone vibes, but it just it settled in, and it wasn't like, oh, I'm listening to a cover of Sly and the Family Stone. I'm listening to
Right.
someone who is inspired and who is an artist and has made their own way and put that story in. How are you able to do that?
If I'm honest, I really, 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 really love LaBelle. And I always wanted to cover You Turn Me On. And I knew if I did that, I could not do it exactly as it was done.
Mhm.
because they did it, they broke it. Like, you're gonna sing Prince. Don't sing it exactly as Prince because you'll never be Prince. Um, I wanted it to be fun, but I still wanted people to feel the yearning. And when I came to Soul Messiah produced that track along with Kalfani Morris. Both of them produced Creep, Red Light Special. I'm trying to think what other songs that they did for TLC. And so, it was really great again to work with some like veteran producers because it's just when you're working with a vet, they just kind of know. And I sat down on the beat machine and I gave them the case. I told them what I really wanted it to feel like. I wanted it to feel more gospelly. I wanted another generation to be able to appreciate the work of LaBelle, and I wanted to give a great vehicle for it through You Turn Me On. And I'm really, really proud of how that felt. And I'm so glad you feel that because when I remake a song, I want the person who wrote it to feel great about the fact that I gave it something new. And I feel good knowing that they approved of that. They did the same thing with Mother's Finest with my rendition of Baby Love. You know, we thank the Lord that I'm able to remake a good song and people feel good about it. So thank you.
Well, another one too was, um, and I think this one hit me because there's music that you and I talked about when you said doom 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 doom. Like it takes us back, right? So when we both hear that, it takes you back to a place. It takes me back to a place. It's like a soundtrack, right? When we hear a song.
Yes.
Q's Juke Joint was a big one for me, um, a big album for me because I was going through some challenging times. I think it was relationship wise. I just made silly decisions. My brother told me my picker was broken because I kept picking the wrong person. That's what he told me. And my brother told me, he's like, your picker is so broken. I'm picking the next one. And he actually picked my wife. He went out to a concert. It was a Ziggy Marley concert. He comes home and he's like, I met your wife. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he told me who it was. And I was like, are you joking? That's my friend. And it was a friend that I worked with and I didn't see her like that at all. And he's like, you dumbass. You work with her, you're around her, that's your wife. And he picked her. So, but before that, I was going through a lot of challenges and self inflicted. Q's Juke Joint was on heavy rotation, just unbelievable. Like, again, a non skip kind of disc at the time. But Strike Up the Band brought back those vibes for me.
That's awesome. That really makes me feel good. I remember when Tay brought me the track from S1 and I immediately fell in love. I fell in love with it. And it was a really great opportunity for me to kind of show my whimsical energy and but also be a rally call for She Has Arrived. So get ready. And yeah, that's really awesome that stood out to you. I really
Well,
appreciate that.
I felt, YahZarah, you could have just put that on Q's Juke Joint. Like you could have just put that track on there and I wouldn't have
Wow.
known the difference. Like I wouldn't have known the difference. Does that make sense? Like I mean, it
Yes,
had that
and I just
vibe,
want to
its
have.
own flavor. Now, but help me with this because there's a lead in on that song.
Hmm.
Did you have to take a couple of takes of that? Or was that just, hey, I'm just going to talk it. And then, cause you kind of almost talked us into the song.
Yeah, I just kind of talked us into the song. I was just having fun. Fonte, as a collaborator, always finished my creative sentences. He's kind of one of those people where there are not a lot of people I trust to pick tracks for me, but because we knew each other so well, he walked in there with that and he pushed play, and I was like, "Hey, what's the hero without their theme music?" Um, I've always likened myself to like a character where there's Clark Kent, and then there's who Clark Kent is when he's Superman. And I think that's me when I'm on stage. There's Dana, and then there's YahZarah when she gets on stage and the electric hits her, and she becomes Aurora, and she's the storm, and she's the thing. And I wanted something that embodied that. And also, when you talk about Q's Juke Joint, that record was everything to me. I also came up in an environment where there was like a lot of um, juke joint and old jazz energy and burlesque feelings, and it's just fun. And also, one of my favorite records on that Q album is You Put a Move on My Heart, as well as the way they turned Moody's Mood for Love into something that the whole world could reimagine. I think, and I know that when I set out to make music, my intention is to do that type of vintage work, to make you feel vintage feelings. So that's a big deal, especially if you're comparing that to Q's Juke Joint, one of my
Mm.
favorite albums of all time. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I know when we talked about earlier, you starting in the church. I want to tell you too, my friend Stephanie Kachelski. She just, I don't know if she's still on, but she popped on. She was the former artistic director of Paul Mitchell, and when the next time you do a album cover, that's your hairdresser. That is one of the most iconic hairdressers that's ever lived. And I'll send you over like some of her work. Literally on the biggest stages. I mean, this woman is unbelievable. But it's been cool because she's been a mentor to me, a great friend, an incredible human. So this is where I tie those things together. Is when we talked about it at first, you were in the church, you were singing, you knew your purpose, you knew that you were doing this because it was a gift from God. Therefore, you could be in environments and treat your heroes as humans as opposed to being starstruck.
Yes, I'm very grateful for that.
We all are human, YahZarah. Was there ever a time where you were like, it's them? You know what I'm saying? Like where you come into a scenario and was there ever?
Yes. Yes. I will always say, without fear of reproach, that I'm so sorry.
No, you're
My
good.
cat
That's
just,
good.
please forgive me now.
You're fine.
Somebody just opened my door. One moment. Oh, okay. Lord. Pardon me. My whole family just came back in while you were interviewing me. Please
That's
forgive me,
good.
everybody.
Do we get to meet the
Land.
family? Do we get to meet the family or
Yes, you'll
what?
get to meet the family. My
Yes.
mom and my son just came back from seeing Odyssey.
Oh, phenomenal movie, by
Yeah.
the way. Did you see it?
Don't spoil it. Don't
Did you
spoil
see
it. I'm
it?
supposed to go see it with them. They just went to go change the ticket because I had to remind them that I had an interview with you today.
Okay.
So
All right.
I see it today. So don't spoil it.
Okay. It's phenomenal
Don't
though.
spoil it.
Like really good movie. Obviously when you have someone in the movie theater for that long, it's epic. It's a great one. You're going to love it. I get to see Spider-Man today with my son.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm jelly. So also sidebar, I'm a big comic book fan. So like if X-Men, I collected Archie comic books back in the day when I was a kid, all the X-Men stuff, heavy metal,
Hold on for a second.
anime.
Hold on.
Yes. Yes.
We got Donald Duck. I don't even know what this one was. This is the baby. What is that one? That's the hottest devil, Harvey Comics, Archie. There we go.
Oh, a second. Miles, come here. Come here, say hi. This is the love of my life. My
Miles.
other collector. Hello.
How you doing, Miles?
This way. Good.
The other way.
Good.
Yes. It's nice to meet you. I heard all about you, and I heard that you're towering over your mom now.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Yeah, this is my buddy right here. I always tell people I was fortunate enough to give birth to. You gotta move this way, baby.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
To give birth to a human being that I really loves character, and I'm very grateful. At this point, I always tell folks, and this is something even to understand as a creative. After you give birth to a human being, once they hit about 10 or 11, you're a guide. You're a guidance counselor, and so. It's true. They either listen or they don't. And I'm very grateful to have this child with such beautiful character who is not perfect, but he's perfect for me.
Yes.
I love him.
Miles,
And
what does your mom not know enough or hear enough from you?
Mm, what do you not know or hear enough from me?
yeah, the voice or something.
Not know. Do you not hear? Ah, do you not hear enough from me?
This way.
What do you think? You don't hear enough. I think you don't hear enough from me. I think I need to tell. I think yeah, that is true. I that is true.
But he's so helpful. He's like any other teenage boy.
I
So
think
But
I
what
need
do
to
you?
tell
I
you
mean,
that
I
too
want to.
often.
This is major to me, Miles, and to be able to see you and your mom together means so much to me because I'm actually going to live more of my life without my mom than I did with her. And so I don't get a chance to sit next to my mom and have her hug on me and embarrass me by saying that, you're handsome or, squeezing your cheeks or doing any of those things that you want, you want her to stop at times. But what are some things that you think about throughout the day or that you think about throughout your life that sometimes you just like you think that she already knows, so you don't say it?
Um, that I love my mom. I think I say it a lot, but like I think I need to say it more. Sometimes, I just say bye or stuff like that. But I think she does need to hear me say that I love her a lot more.
What specifically, like when you think of your mom and you think of the love, what's a specific instance when you like that almost kind of can sum it up a little bit? Because a lot of times as a parent, we don't hear the specifics, right? So I got to sit.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a quick story. I sat with my daughter at in Central Park just recently. She wants to move to the New York City, so I need a lot of your prayers because she's 17. But
well,
she's
she's got
moving
an
to the.
auntie in Brooklyn if she needs somebody to back her up. Okay, we got her.
So honestly, but I know she's done. She's going. Like I know this. But we sat in Central Park and she opened up to me and she said, "Dad, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you and Mom sacrificing and doing as much work as you have to be able to have us live in a neighborhood that we do. And I don't want you to not to appreciate. I want you to know that I appreciate that. Although I want to do the things that I want to do because I want to prove to myself that I can make it on my own." And it was like that to me meant the world, like that she saw the things that we did. What are some of the things that you think about with your mom that you just specifically that you just don't say?
My mom like is a very big sacrificer, especially like when it comes to her time. Like there could be some times where she could be preparing for a show or doing this or that, and I have like basketball practice or something like that, and she'll take me to basketball practice and then come back and finish what she's doing. So like moments like that where she sacrifices her time or even money to help me work on what I want to do. Like I love basketball. That's my passion, and she takes a lot of time out of what she does to help me get better at the sport that I love. So I really appreciate it.
If you had all of her audience and the people who have never heard your mom's music, which probably is no one on this planet, you had them all in a room and you said, "Could you do this for my mom?" What would that thing for us as an audience, what could we do for your mom that would honor her at the highest level?
What could you do for my mom? I'd
As an
say,
artist.
as an artist, I would say I think her music is like very it touches you. It touches you a lot, especially like with some of the new things that she's working on.
Mhm.
Um, I think I would love to hear like my mom's music and like films and stuff like that. Like she is very. I feel like if someone could like use her music to um display like emotion, all this stuff. Like it's very deep. It's hard to explain. It's very deep music, and her lyrics like are very yeah, very deep. I just think her that is a hard question.
I've got one last one for you, Miles. Okay.
Okay.
What I want you to do is, okay, basketball, I know it's a love of my life, although I learned that I didn't have hops at the time, and I was vertically challenged and I could touch the rim and in my glory days, back in my day. But I know that basketball is about bravado. Basketball is not about being number two. Basketball, even if you're playing the two guard, you're still in your mind. You know this. When you go on the court, if you have a number two thought process, you're going to get eaten alive. You know this.
Yeah.
And I know that when you talked about basketball, I saw your countenance change a little bit. So I know that you're a killer. When you get on the court, you're a killer. Am I correct? So
Yes.
what I want you to do, and you're super humble because you got that from your mama, but your mama too is humble, but she knows that she's a queen and she knows how strong she is. I want you to push your mom to the side a little bit, get in the middle of that camera, and I want you to, if you got the opportunity to talk to the world about your mama's music and what they should do. Should they listen to it? Should they buy it? Should they go to the show? Say it with your chest of what they should
Yeah,
do.
my mom has the best music in the world, and if you're not listening to it, I don't know what you're doing. She is exceptional. She's phenomenal, and you should buy all of her music. Go to her shows. She has great shows. Whether there's a band there or not, share her amazing. It really gives you chills. Like when I tell you my mom's voice, like have you seen like glass break from how loud someone's voice is? Not just loud, but like she has so much skill. And yeah, I mean, if you're not listening to her music, if you're not going to her shows, please do, because you're missing out.
There we go, Miles. You're amazing, man.
Thank you.
It means the world to me. I'm gonna get your mom to that show too. What time is you guys' show? What time is the movie? What time are you guys going?
I don't know. What time did you get the ticket for, Mom?
Well, we're gonna have to redo it.
Yeah, we gotta
Okay.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. No
Can I
worries. No
can I
worries.
meet mom? Can I meet mom?
Absolutely, Mom. Come here.
Mom, get over here.
A mouthful of pizza.
I'm very proud of my mother, so I'd
Mm.
love for you guys to meet her. She was my first vocal teacher. Hi.
Mama,
Hi.
how are you doing?
Oh, great. Thank you. How are you?
Wonderful. What would you like the world to understand about your daughter?
Oh, my daughter she sings from her heart. She gives it her all. If you go to visit her and you see her on the stage, she performs like it's the last performance of her life every time.
Mm.
I wish I had somebody who could just pick her up and carry her off the stage because she really gives it her all. She leaves her spirit, her mind, her heart, her soul on that stage every time. And her music is beautiful. It's thoughtful. It's romantic. It's healing. And I wish more people could hear her music, would buy her music, would come to her concerts so that she can, you know, enjoy the hard work that she does because she works so hard and yet there's not enough people. We need more people to come out and see her and hear her and experience her. And that will give her the help that she needs to continue to make music, to continue to entertain people.
Mama,
That's what I say.
what's your favorite YahZarah song?
My favorite YahZarah song is Come Back Like a Flower. Although that's not a song that she wrote. I think it's a Stevie Wonder song. Sarita wrote it. But the way she sings it, her interpretation is beautiful. You will not be able to hear that song and not at least feel like shedding a tear because it's so beautiful.
And my mother is also being very humble. She and Sarita grew up together in Pennsylvania. And my mother was a DJ. She is my first teacher. I re-recorded "Come Back as a Flower" after Sarita passed away because it was the song my mother used to play for me a lot off of Stevie Wonder's Secret Life of Plants. Highly underrated album. Please download it. If you have not listened to Secret Life of Plants, you should.
Absolutely.
And Sarita was a good friend of my mother's, and it meant a lot to her when she passed away. And I just wanted to make her feel better. And I also wanted to give Sarita her flowers. I felt like she was an artist who had experienced some similar things as myself, and I wanted the world to hear her voice through my own. So, yeah. And see my
Mama,
mama.
Yeah.
Mama, as a podcaster, people don't realize how important it is to leave a rating on Apple and on Spotify, and to follow and to share with their friends, right?
Right.
From a artist standpoint, what is the most important thing that we as an audience don't understand that we could do to be able to support such an amazing, legendary talent like your daughter?
Well, I guess because I'm the one who used to listen to other people's music before she was ever born, and I used to notice how people would share with other people that music so that they would be interested in it, just like I don't know how to stay on the screen. I keep walking back and
It's
forth.
backwards. It's hard because you go opposite with the screen. Yeah.
Right there. So, I really think that it's very important that people understand that artists work very hard, especially vocalists. You can take a trumpet, when you're finished with it, you put it back in the case. You take a piano, you just close up the keys. But when you're an artist and you sing, you've got to rest that voice. You've got to be available for people to interview you, like you. Artists work very, very hard, particularly vocalists, and people need to understand that. And I think if maybe they might not care that much about that, but if they knew or realized exactly what it was that they were receiving, maybe they would appreciate it more. I don't know. I do. That's
Did
how
the
I
two did the two of you sing together?
Sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes, but yeah. She's the singer, I'm not.
Don't believe her.
I
My
don't
mother
I
taught
don't
me.
I don't believe those words. Although everything that you say, I mean, I feel you, but I believe that hearing a duet of you two, like we were just talking about what we would, YahZarah and I were talking about, like a ultimate dream team as far. But for me, I would love on the album to hear Mama and you, YahZarah, go at it.
I would love that too. My mom has actually helped me co-write a few songs on records as well. If you like my song from Black Star, no, not Black Star, Hear Me, Same Page. My mom wrote the hook on Same Page. I wanna know love, inhale peace, exhale joy, no love. Are you part of my plan, man? That's Sister Beverly over here. And
So
Backseat of My Star. That's some of my mom's pen over there. She'll just call me out the blue one day with a vocal recording and say, I was just, doing something and I heard this song in my spirit. And the next thing you know, I'm listening to her songs and turning them into music. And my dream is in fact to one day record albums with her songs on them for herself. She's
mm,
a worshiper. She is a healer in her own right. I learned how to serve through this woman. So that's my dream.
That's sweet.
so when I was a kid, Mama, I didn't realize it. When I say I was a kid, it was probably in my maybe mid-30s. And my mom and pop were going through some stuff. And, I would see him, they lived down the street. I'd see him now and again, all this stuff. And then probably 5 years later, I told him, I said, there were some times where I didn't get to see you. Where, what were you doing? And he said, well, I never wanted to tell you while it was happening. But your mom and I, we had some challenges, and there was times where and we were driving, and he pointed at a hotel, like this rinky-dink ragtag hotel, and he said, I used to just go and stay there when you wouldn't hear from me. I would be staying in that hotel, and I looked at it, and no one should be staying in this hotel, but I didn't know. And he sacrificed during that time to make sure that and didn't tell me because he didn't want me to hurt, and he knew that I would try and step in or whatever it was. He told me later, and most of the time as parents, we don't tell our kids about the sacrifices that we make so they can live their dreams. What is something that you sacrificed that maybe YahZarah doesn't know, that you've done throughout your life to make sure that she had the scenario that she lives now?
That's a really interesting question. I really wanted her to be a singing doctor or a singing, lawyer. Because I know how hard this business is. I knew from just hearing other people talk about it, from just looking and reading autobiographies of different singers, people like that. And I just wanted her to go that far. And I was really sure that she would, because she got a full ride to North Carolina Central University. And when she got that full ride, I already had a master's degree. I was a teacher, and I wanted to teach at a different level. I kind of felt like it. As time goes by, you want to teach people who are of a higher level of intellect than little children. I love little children, but after a while, you kind of want to get into a different level of teaching. And I wanted to get my doctorate. So when she got her full load, I said to myself, I can do this now. And then she, not realizing what it's like to be in college and get a scholarship where you have to maintain that 3.0, because someone is going to grab it from you. And the one lady who wanted to grab it didn't want to give her the scholarship in the first place. I had to take off from work, drive down to the university. And when I got there, the lady who said that she wasn't going to let her get the scholarship because of some minor thing that had to do with math, and she had a math course that was not one of the recommended courses. So this lady was in a meeting, and when the meeting was over, her boss came down, and her boss said, "Can I help anybody?" She was the dean of students. And so she started helping us, and she said, "Oh, I'll just sign off on that. She's a great student. I'm sure she'll be a great student. I love her voice. I've heard her singing, and I want her at our university." So that other lady came down, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry you came so far for me to tell you that she can't keep it." And her boss said to her, "Oh, yeah, she's keeping it. I've just signed for it." So I made that sacrifice. I didn't go to work that day. It was on a Friday. I drove down there, and I made sure that she was able to get into that university, because I was certain that that particular issue was a petty issue, and it was. So, those were the things that I had to deal with, and I wanted her to understand that that sacrifice meant everything to me, but I didn't want to bang it over her head. I just wanted her to do what she wanted to do. So eventually she left school before she finished that wonderful scholarship and started singing on the road with Erykah Badu. I had to learn how to love that, because you have to love what your children want to do. You can't force them to be who you want them to be. And you have to let them bump their heads too, if they have to. I did make Dean's List. She did make Dean's List for that. Thank you. But
Well,
also, if I wanted to highlight a sacrifice
yeah.
my mother made, is allowing my son to stay with her after my separation so that I could continue to figure out what was going to come next and make that music and get that real estate license so that I could do what I needed to do in the meantime. And there have been thousands of other things that my mother has done to make it possible, from putting that money together so I could get down there to Erykah Badu, sacrificing in time and energy, and allowing me to live out the dream that the women in my family didn't get a chance to in music. So, I honor her. I honor her with that.
Mm. Well, I want to honor you both with you guys' time. And I started the podcast YahZarah. I don't know if I told you, and Mama, you probably don't know this, but I started the podcast because of my two kids, and I wanted to take all their heroes and my heroes and make them human. And I didn't want them to worship idols. I just wanted them to be inspired by iconic people like YahZarah and yourself, Mama. So, what
Thank you.
advice would you have for Maddox, who's 14 years old, like your son, Miles, and
Yeah.
McKenna, who's 17 years old, and Mama, my 17-year-old is dead set on moving to New York City when she graduates from high school in less than a year. So, what advice would you give them? And if you could use both their names, Maddox and McKenna, it would be awesome.
Maddox and McKenna, always be transparent with your family, especially your parents. If there's a problem, let them know what their problem is. Don't try to figure it out on your own. Just let them know. Maybe they won't interfere, maybe they'll let you figure it out. But never hold back letting your parents know that you need their advice or you need their help. That's what we're here for. We don't want you to hold back things and then suffer in the end because you haven't told us, and we'll all suffer with you. So just be transparent with your parents. There's nothing you can say to your parents, Maddox and I'm sorry, what the
Mackenzie.
and Mackenzie. There's nothing that you can say, Maddox and McKenna, to your parents that's going to make them angry or judgmental. Am I right? And also, don't do anything that you would be ashamed of or that you think your parents would be ashamed of for you. That's it.
And I would like to add, you did not ask.
I did ask. I want both of you.
You did, oh, you did ask me too? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, one of the most important things that has gotten me through the moments where I felt like I might have let myself down or where I needed to pick me up was to be self-encouraged. Self-encouragement remains steadfast even when everything else seems like it's against it. That is the key to getting anywhere you're trying to go. Because most of the time when you're amazing at something, until the world knows about it, you'll only have you to cheer for you and those who love you closest to you. So the key is to not look outside of you for validation, but inwardly for what God has already put in you to do. And then soar on it and believe in yourself. That's the key.
I don't get a chance to do this very often, Mama, but you did a damn good job. Like, I just got a chance to be able to, I can't wait for you to hear the whole interview with your daughter. She honored you from the very beginning. It means so much to me because my mom, at 62, she was 62 years old. I called her from Wrigley Field, and my family was going. I actually texted her. I didn't call her. I should have called her. But I texted her a picture of the family. We're at Wrigley. We were just about to go in. She was so excited. She loved, loved her grandkids, loved all that stuff. And then the next morning, she just never woke up. And 4.5 years later, my pops, who was only 68, went to hang out with her in heaven. And I don't get the opportunity to do what you guys are doing right now. And I spend time with them every day. I spend time, alone time with them, and they talk to me all the time and all those things, but I don't get to hug on them. And my pops would always tell me text your mom. And I'll be like, yeah, it doesn't mean that much, but it means so much. And to see you two together, see you hugging, see how proud you are of your daughter, and see how much your daughter honors you, it just means the world to me.
Well, thank you for sharing the gift of your parents with us. They stay alive in you. And, part of the spiritual faith I believe in is that they bless us even after all the time, as long as we remember them in our hearts and in our prayer. That's a big thing. And they are represented well in you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for allowing me to have a platform here. I talk about the things that have happened, but since all of those things have happened, now I'm a presidential lifetime achievement award winner for my art. And I know that that was a tough thing for my mother to see me leave school and to start over and to do these things. And I've started over more than once. Which is why I say don't be afraid to be self-encouraged, because you may have to start over again more than one time. You may have to redefine your purpose more than one time, and then remind yourself of why you're staying in it. And part of it is having people around who remind you that you can do great things. So Thank you for reminding me, by virtue of just having me here, that I do great things. And allow my mom to talk about why I exist is just another example of why I'm grateful to people who allow me to talk about the great things I get to do.
Yeah.
Well,
This
both of
lady
you,
is
both
my
of you are huge, huge inspirations. Mama, what I'm going to tell you is, at some point, we actually have a live version of the podcast. It's called the Vibe Room, and we added live music to it. We added stand-up comedy, and then I have interviews in the room that I don't tell anyone who I'm going to be interviewing, so it's a surprise. So you're with them all night until they actually get interviewed, which is a lot of fun. And at some point, the next one is September 23rd. At some point, YahZarah is actually going to come and sing, because we need to experience this in person. Franklin's going to be at our next one. He's going to be there, but we're going to figure out a way to be able to make that happen. Can you two stick around?
That.
Oh, it would be amazing. Can you two stick around just for a second? I'm just going to run a commercial real quick, and then we'll be done. But can you stick around for a second? Would that be okay? Okay.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Mama and YahZarah, you're officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Yeah, and this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small grooves into launch pad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights.